Oh, hello. You just caught me in the middle of teaching. Today I'm going to bring to you mine slash Adam Schefter's power rankings and a little bit of trade chatter. Now, a little bit before I get into the power rankings, all the probabilities, the projections that I talk about, everything that I talk about here is completely based on Yahoo's projections, not NFL.com's. NFL.com's suck. Yahoo's are fantastic. Years of research has gone into this, much more than anyone should have ever done. They use a website called AccuScore. Very, very, very good on their projections. Another quick thing about my projections, it does not take into consideration team depth. All my projections are based on your optimal starting lineup every week going forward. Apparently I need to commission this league as well as my other Dynasty league, as Mike doesn't know how to spell names, and that really screws up my spreadsheet. So my projections that I sent out last week, he was quite a bit lower on those projections than what he actually was because he does not know how to spell Demarius or Isaac. So those issues have been taken care of. So we'll run through the power rankings. I'll start with the top team, and we'll work our way down. Now, if I call someone a W3 or a WR3, a wide receiver 3, that just indicates that they're the third wide receiver on the team's depth chart. Number 1, the Vinegar Strokes. Me. I'm projected 1978 points the rest of the way. I have a couple glaring weaknesses. My quarterback and tight ends are both ranked 12th at their position, but I've got solid teams all the way around besides that. I'm top 3 in wide receiver rankings, running back rankings, and flex rankings as well. Again, just based on the projections, I've got the best starting running back, so best RB1, the best RB2, and the best RB3, but I have no depth beyond that. So if any of those 3 guys get hurt, I am screwed. The reason why I don't really care about quarterback and tight end so much is you only have to start one of those 2, obviously, so I'm not desperate at this moment to necessarily upgrade those. Coming in at number 2, we have Forte Yard Dash. He's projected 1944. His weaknesses are running back, and running back. He's got the worst RB1 and the worst RB2. But to counteract that, he does have the best wide receiving core, according to Yahoo. In fact, he not only the best collective wide receiver group, but he's got the best wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and wide receiver 5. So he's got a little bit of depth there as well. And then he does have 2 solid, if unspectacular, tight ends. Up next, number 3, we have unnecessary fisting, so 2 Helmholtz in the top 3. And I don't think it's coincidence that the top 3 are all people that are involved in D1. So we probably had a little bit of an advantage over the rest of you. I don't see Jason's name yet. He's a little weakish at quarterback, but he's solid all the way around besides that. He's top 5 in position rankings for wide receiver, tight end, and flex. He does have solid depth at both wide receiver and running back, so something that the projections don't take into consideration, again, is the depth. So if he gets a couple injuries, it's not going to hurt him as much as it might a team like mine. He is a little weak at quarterback. He's got the 10th rated quarterback from here on out. Oh, and all the projections begin with this week. So anything that happened in the past, unless that affects the Yahoo projections, it does not affect any of the things that I'm talking about here. Number 4, we have Scott, projected 1939. A little weakish at quarterback and wide receiver, but he's got the number 1 tight end and he's got the number 3 flex. He's got solid depth at quarterback. He's got 3 viable starters, but his top line wide receivers little sketchy. He's got the worst wide receiver 1 and he's got the second worst wide receiver 2. Dustin comes in at 5th, projected in 1906. He doesn't really have any glaring weaknesses, but he also doesn't have very clear strengths as well. All of his position ranks for quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, and flex, they're all between 3 and 10. So no real top line positions, no real bottom line positions though either. That's what gets you in the middle of the pack at number 5. He does have good solid depth at running back though. His RB3 is better than most people's RB2s, and his RB4 is better than most people's RB3s. So maybe he's looking to move a running back to help solidify some of his other positions. Number 6, Mike S., projected 1860. His team is set up very similar to mine. He's weak at quarterback and tight end. I'm ranked 12th in both of those. He's ranked 11 in both of those. And he's strong at running back, just like I am. He's got the number 2 set of running backs. So his his RB1 is tied for the top. I believe that's Arian Foster, tied with LeSean McCoy. And he has the second best RB2. But much like me, beyond his top couple guys, he does not have any depth at running back. Number 7, we finally get to the other member of the first dynasty, and that's Jason, projected 1846. He's a little weak at flex, which indicates that he's got a lack of depth beyond his top guys, and the main strength that he has is obviously Peyton Manning. Averaging 7 touchdowns a game so far. That'll win you a lot of games. He is in the top 3 at quarterback, running back, and tight end, but again, has no depth whatsoever, especially at wide receiver. He's got the worst wide receiver 4, the worst wide receiver 5, and the worst running back 3. So that's really where his low rating on his flex comes into play. He does have a solid tight end, though. He's got a lot of depth at tight end, especially. He does have the top tight end 3. I may be coming to you, trying to work out a deal in the near future. Number 8, Jared, projected 1830. Again, no glaring weaknesses here. His strengths, it actually looks like Gronk is going to be coming back sooner than projected, which is going to be good for New England because, Vereen is hurt, Amendola is hurt. They basically lost everyone else over the offseason, so Gronk is going to be right there with Jimmy Graham the rest of the way. Again, no real glaring weaknesses, but outside of tight end, no real clear strengths either. His rankings for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and flex are all between 6 and 9, so nothing spectacular there. Number 9 is Doug, projected 1806. He is weak at wide receiver, and he is strong, at least in terms of running back depth. I continue to be shocked that Mike and Doug have not been able to strike a deal. Something has to give there. It sounds like you guys are way on opposite ends. I do have to agree with what I've heard from Doug a little bit, though, that running backs should be valued a little bit more than wide receivers. You have 32 starting running backs. You have probably 80 starting wide receivers between, the teams that run 3 wide receiver sets. So that does have to get taken into consideration. He's in the top 3 for his RB3 and RB4, which again goes into that running back depth. But I did say he was weak at wide receiver. He has the worst wide receiver 2 and the worst wide receiver 3. So, Doug, you might want to get that taken care of. And then finally, 10, 11, and 12. We have the Derricks. Number 10 is Derek Mostrom, projected 1768. He's very weak at running back, had 0 depth. His one strength, very similar to Jason's strength as far as having Peyton Manning, arguably the best quarterback in the league. Derek has more than arguably the best wide receiver in the league. He didn't really show it last week, but Calvin Johnson can carry him to victory on any given week. The issue there, though, is after Calvin, he has the worst wide receiver 2 and the worst wide receiver 3. So even after you factor in those 2 things, worst at the second and third wide receiver positions, in terms of the top 3 wide receiver positions, though, he's still a top 6. He still has a top 6 wide receiving core, all because of Calvin Johnson. He's only got 3 running backs on his roster that are actually playing. So when I say he has no depth beyond running back 3, he has no depth beyond running back 3. So injuries could come back to bite him. Number 11, Derek Newberta. Weakness. His most glaring weakness is at running back, and I really struggle to find a strength here. So the strength of Derek's team, he's got a pretty cute daughter, I guess. So a little Claire Bear. I mean, she's not Jordy cute, but she's pretty cute. That's about the only strength that I have for your team. Yeah, like I said, he's weak all the way around. He's in the bottom 5 in all starting position ranks. He does have the second best quarterback 2 and a solid QB 3, so maybe he can move one of those quarterbacks for help elsewhere. I mean, we all know that he needs it. But he's not even last. Last goes to Derek L., who is only projected 1695 the rest of the way. His weaknesses are at wide receiver, running back, and flex. He does have strength at quarterback, and he has a very good RB1. Aaron Rodgers, arguably the top quarterback. Adrian Peterson, arguably the top running back. So he's got those 2 guys, but then not a whole lot else that is of really any interest to anyone. The issue with moving either Rodgers or Peterson to help out elsewhere, he's paying them way too much for way too long. I'd love to have those guys on my team, not for what you're paying for them, though. So those are the power rankings. Real quickly, the Week 2 lines. Scott is the biggest favorite over Derek Newberta. Scott's minus 155. Derek N plus 125. Andy is a minus 130 favorite over Jason, plus 105. I am a minus 125 favorite over Derek L, plus 100. And then the rest of the 3 matchups, they're all going to be very close, or should be very close. No clear-cut favorite. Doug is minus 120 over Jared, minus 105. Mike Mostrom is minus 115 versus Derek Mostrom, minus 105. And then in a true pick'em fashion, they are projected within, I think, 1.5 points of each other. Dustin versus Mike S. Real quickly, wanted to give you the division favorites. I'm the favorite to win the East at minus 230. Andy's the favorite to win the North at minus 210. Mike M is the favorite to win the West at minus 180. And again, no clear-cut favorite in the South. Right now, Mike S is plus 120 to win the South. A little bit of trade chatter. Mike Mostrom and myself have updated our trading block. Really, the only information I'm ever receiving is still from Mike Mostrom and Doug. As stated earlier, and we'll probably continue to hear this unless they are able to hash out a deal. But Mike Mostrom needs running back help. Doug needs wide receiver help. They can help each other, but they are not willing to. As far as I'm concerned, after a few more weeks, I should have some pretty good wide receiver depth. But I need to wait for Blackman and Gordon to get off of their suspensions before I can really move anything. And now a feature that I'll end with every week, it is a who says no to this trade. So this feature will ignore contract stipulations and only deal with raw projections. So 2 teams involving players that I think could benefit the opposite teams more than what they are benefiting their current team. So who says no to this trade? Mike Mostrom sending Dwayne Bowe to Scott in exchange for Rashard Mendenhall. Mike gets a running back help, which he needs. Scott gets wide receiver help, which he needs. And the other one, Derek N. sends Marshawn Lynch, James Jones, and Michael Vick to Mike S. in exchange for Arian Foster and Kenny Britt. I said Derek Newberta has some quarterback depth, but could use some help elsewhere. Arian Foster obviously is going to help him. It doesn't kill Mike S. dropping from Foster to Lynch. Yeah, and then James Jones and Kenny Britt just threw those in kind of for fun. So I will be back again next week with more projections and more trade chatter. Peace.